Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, you snuck up on me. Hello there. How you doing? Woo! All right, it's the 5th of November of 2013. And it's a Tuesday, and that means my kid sister Susan, is joining us from the family homestead in depressed Green Bay, Wisconsin, a small town in the upper Midwest that lives and breathes and dies by its beloved football team. Went down to ignominious defeat last night to its dreaded rivals, the Chicago Bears. There is no joy in Mudville, Susan.
No.
So, everybody okay there?
Yeah, well, yeah, my daughter and her, I don't know, you can't call him a boyfriend. He's this high-powered scientist professor type, right?
He's still her boyfriend.
Her love interest?
Her partner.
Her partner. We're in for the game, and they said that when Aaron Rodgers got hit and hurt, it was palpable. The energy just sucked out of that stadium.
Yeah.
And everybody, she said, I felt like, handing out
what value
Kleenexes and do counseling and caring stuff with everybody. She said it was just pitiful.
Well,
and your brother called up and when that happened and said, I'm going to die, and hung up.
Oh, my God. Okay, so this is interesting. Suze, because I don't know if you saw your Wall Street Journal today.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
That's okay. So here's what there is a piece called The Pulse of the Sports Fan. And it is true that fans can live and die by their teams, which does not bode well for
Bill.
For our brother, for Pittsburghers, because you think the Packers are in trouble.
Oh, no, the Steelers are stinking up the joint.
Yeah, we're really it's beyond belief. And the Packers, of course, are just so injured, and taking out Rodgers now is a joke. They might as well field one of the high school teams. We lost our quarterback, too. Everybody is just... I have to say this. I almost. This is a terrible thing. I was going to say you almost hope somebody loses.
I almost would be relieved if Aaron Rodgers, who's so smart and so talented, had something wrong with his shoulder and we could save his head.
No.
Did you hear Jim McMahon has just announced that?
No, Jim McMahon
his head is gone.
No, that's been known for some time. McMahon has been like a drooling idiot for a long time. And he's been part of these studies that have been done.
Yeah, well, he's in the lawsuit.
And now I believe Brett Favre has now said he can't think straight.
No.
Although the Packers...
so I start thinking, gee, a bad shoulder, that's a win.
Well, here's what the scientists say about these sports things. First of all, the strangest finding is that fans tend to derive more pleasure from a close loss than a blowout win. I find that hard to believe. But a close loss means they sat through.
They hung in. Well, it's the way you felt about your baseball team when they did well but didn't quite make it.
Yeah, but it's that there was great suspense, there was great play, there was it made for a better enjoyment of a drama that was playing out. And if you a blowout is not interesting.
No, it's boring.
It is. So, and it's also been noted that, some people get so involved with their team during a game. And because our hearts and our physical selves do relate, are impacted by the release of testosterone and all this other stuff that's going on because testosterone does get released a lot during football games because there's a lot of aggression that's going on. And that has an effect on our cardiac health. And this has been substantiated a number of times. Here's one. This is a stat from Pittsburgh. When the Steelers won the Super Bowl in 2009, Pittsburgh area hospitals saw 25% fewer heart-related deaths than average over the next 8 days. So a Super Bowl win... seemingly, now you don't know if it's caused, all of a sudden, seemingly people were healthier.
Well, and you know that depression is linked very closely with cardiac issues.
That's true too. And here,
so the fact that that there's a connection between the brain and the heart and the brain, and I can testify that there's a connection between the brain and the gut.
The gut, yeah, absolutely, and the brain. No, it's true. We're one organism, and this mind-body split that some people think exists does not exist. We are unified beings, and after the Giants beat the Patriots in 2008. The number of circulatory-related deaths in and around Massachusetts rose 20% in the 8 days following the defeat of their team in the Super Bowl. So beware a Super Bowl loss if you have a heart issues.
If you care.
I guess.
Only if you care.
And what else? There's interesting stuff. Fans release more testosterone during nail biters, and
because they're totally engaged and they're part of the battle.
That's right. They got to get aggressive. They've got to be in there fighting.
They're helping.
And then after, if their team wins, their testosterone continues to go up even after the win, while the loser fans, their testosterone sort of like drops precipitously.
So let me ask, did they just do this study on men, or is this checking women's testosterone levels as well?
I think it's men and women. Okay. I think it's men and women. It's fans. So sports matter also because It's related to social status. See, I think that's why people get so really depressed. It's about being able to brag, hey, we're the mighty Steelers. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, when you're not the mighty Steelers, you're these jokes that come out on the field. That creates some real difficulty. You lose status. So the entire city, the entire fandom loses status. It's true.
Well, look at how the Dolphins have shamed their city, and I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
Incognito. Okay, well, we want to talk about that, but I
know. Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying that it not only brings glory, it brings shame. The shame doesn't have to be connected to defeat. It can be a real smear.
We've dealt with that with Roethlisberger.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. When watching a match, your social esteem, this is one of the scientists, your social esteem is at stake and is threatened if you lose, so you get stressed. And they measure all kinds of hormone levels in saliva taking at various points during games. I mean, people are like, they're literally living and dying with their team in terms of how they feel about themselves. And the people who identify most strongly as fans release the most cortisol, we're the most stressed, partly because they actually don't have any control, right? I mean, this is where fans get a little mixed up. They don't have any control. So I don't know. But yeah, this is... it does affect your health, and so there might be a little more depression in Pittsburgh this winter than there normally is, because we are not going to have the Steelers to make us feel better, and that's just the way it goes. So, Susan, so this dolphin thing, I first heard about this last night during the
Right, I did too,
game.
So I looked it up.
Well, I was a little confused about it, and then I thought, so. I mean, to me, a sense of bullying and boorishness and this kind of ugly behavior. I mean, what I don't get is why we're so extraordinarily shocked. Is the shock because it's his own teammate?
The whole point to this, and what bothers me about it, is that football management seems to be selecting for thugs.
Okay.
I mean, this guy that is accused of doing all the bullying was a St. Louis Ram and was famous as being the dirtiest player in the NFL. He would headbutt people. He got thrown out of games. We finally got rid of him because he's an embarrassment. And so the Dolphins pick him right up. They know the history. And then what he did to this second year 350-pound African American, whatever running back, defender, to tackle, or whoever he was, is, I mean, it was like
it's a fellow
like eighth grade high school.
Yeah.
He would come in and sit down at the table to eat, and everybody at the table would stand up and walk away.
So
they would go to Las Vegas and have spend $35,000 and send the bill to this guy.
Was he the only young?
No, they did that. The money thing they did to all rookies.
Okay,
they
so
would
that
take
happens.
The rookies' salaries.
Okay, so that
they bullied everybody, but they really picked on this guy, and they used the N-word. They accused, they
now you're saying
that he was gay.
Wait.
They hit everyone.
You're saying they. I thought it was one.
Well, no, I mean, he was the leader, but the whole clubhouse participated. And frankly, if you read all the articles about it, they're upset that he's been thrown off the team or suspended.
Okay, so what brought this to light is the guy that he was focused on.
Martin is his name.
Yeah, he, he just sort of...
He stood up and left. He just said, I'm not taking this anymore, and he left the team.
Oh, well, see, but that would be considered being a baby.
Well, you see, and so here's the sick part. What he really did is stand up for himself.
Of course, but this
and
will
say,
be
I'm not going to take this anymore. This isn't. I'm a professional, organization. This isn't professional, and everybody is clearly this is the gestalt of the club. I don't want to be a member.
Yeah.
And so what he did was actually extraordinarily brave, but you're damn right that's how it's going to be interpreted these thug clubhouses. I've had it.
Here's the other thing. The guy who was, you're saying his name's Martin, the guy who was bullied, the second-year player, was a graduate of Stanford. His parents are both graduates of Harvard. He comes from an extremely upper middle class, educated family, grew up listening to classical music and all of that. So he's an oddball to start with. He is not like the rest of them. And they say that sometimes players who come from the more elite schools, he could have gone to Harvard. He went to Stanford because he wanted to play football, and Stanford had a better team. He intends to become a lawyer. He's very bright, and he not bright enough to not play football.
Not bright enough to not play football.
Yeah, but he's good at it, and he really wanted to do it. So, but I guess at this point he thought, who the hell needs this crap? But he was. I read somewhere that, in fact, players coming from more elite universities who seem a little more, educated and blah, 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 are often targeted. And if they're black and coming from that elite background, why, that gets you into the same possible territory of Obama.
Then you have to add uppity.
Uppity, because that's where some people, as we can see with Obama, that just cannot tolerate a black man appearing in some way to have standing over them, a white guy. So I don't know. I mean, this will be interesting to see how it plays out because, no laws were broken here. I mean, it'd have to be some team rule or NFL rule of what? Of treating each other with... Come on, it's football. Football exists to literally destroy the other team. And so it's an offense to turn it on your own team?
I'm sorry. If it's football, it's bad football because football is a team sport.
Yeah.
And the team, theoretically, is supposed to function, as one for all for one. So if the team is splintering and picking on itself, that's bad for the organization.
Well, this sounds like
look what it did here. That's not, come on, this is football. I mean, that's what all these people are saying. I'm trying to keep myself from using the word I wanted to use. That's what they're saying. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to bully all the young guys, make them tough.
That's right.
No, we're supposed to be able to steal their money. We're supposed to be able to. No, you're not. You're supposed to be human beings who have this job.
Well, but that ain't the culture.
You can perform this job with good character. And the fact that football has gone the way. Has purposefully gone the other way.
Susan
is not only killing its players, but it's ruining the sport.
Yeah, but Susan, I think I just can't believe I am so not surprised by any of this. I mean, football is choosing to go the thug route. It's because it's gotten more and more violent. There has never been as many players injured. I mean, look at last night's game. It's all thuggery.
It's all thuggery. Look at the seasons right now. Look at the team. Every single team has everybody on the sidelines. They're all playing with their second and third teams. There's no quarterbacks left. This is just stupid.
It is stupid. And I don't know.
It's stupid.
Well, I agree. But somehow focusing on that this one jerk, one thug, when
they're all thugs,
when I'm not going to say they're all thugs, but the culture is a thuggish culture, and becoming more so. And then obviously there are some organizations and coaches and teams that I don't know.
They actively encourage it.
Well, New Orleans did.
New Orleans paid for it.
Well, but who knows what's going on at all these other teams? I don't know.
Well, I mean, clearly the Dolphin organization had to know what was happening. You can't predict, if they're doing these, these things openly, where anybody can see them, then the management can't pretend not to know. Of course they know. They are supporting it.
But that's just tradition. You haze, you razz, you torture the young guys, right?
I don't think they used to steal their money. I don't know why that's part of the culture. These guys that get paid $20 million taking the money from the rookie. I think that's the organization really needs to stand behind that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I don't even watch it anymore. I can't. I went upstairs and read.
Well, I'm having trouble, and have been for the last few years, and I've talked about it. But
I don't want to.
It's getting more. So I know it's getting pretty awful.
What they're doing is wrong on every single level. It's wrong. It's not a game anymore. It's not fun to watch anymore. And somebody needs to get that lesson through to them.
Well, it's not fun to watch if all the players get injured and you're watching people that are second and third string. When's the last time you saw a game in which no player was injured? I haven't seen one of those in a million years.
And some coach keeled over on the sidelines.
Well, that was in college. Yeah, no, that was college.
College.
Yeah. Well, I think he had some medical
All right,
issues.
Enough. Why can't I mean, there's plenty of outrage to go around, but really, this is just beginning to get stupid.
Well, the problem is America loves football, and that says something maybe about us. We as a country have become more aggressive, I think, in some ways, in every way, maybe.
Yeah, but
than
what
we
I'm
used to,
saying
and
is
so
that
football maybe is just a perfect sport for this culture.
It might be, but I'm living proof that football is beginning to turn people off.
Yeah, well, I am
and
too.
They better fix it before
Yeah,
little towns like Green Bay are going to be in trouble.
Well, no, if football goes down, it's true. Green Bay is just a little asterisk somewhere, but I don't know. This Incognito ain't Incognito anymore, is he?
Is that really his name, Incognito?
Yeah, Richie Incognito. It said his stall in his locker room had a little sign on it in which he said something about things I don't. There are two things I don't like. One, taxes. The second, rookies. And then you got the cornerback saying he's a funny guy. Everybody loves him.
Right. No, they're all rushing to his defense and are all upset.
But then people who played with him in the past, like at Nebraska or with the Rams, say he's a person with a tortured soul. Well,
apparently he was bullied when he was a fat little kid.
Yeah, well,
his father told him to beat the pulp out of anybody that did it to him. So, that's...
Are you making that up?
No.
Oh. Jeez.
Nope, not making it up. I was trying to figure this stuff out last night. It just doesn't make any sense to me that any professional sports organization would think that this was good for the team.
Well, I thought it was odd because I saw the two announcers talking about it, and they looked a little uncomfortable talking about it.
Well, right, because they're part of the culture.
Yeah, and it was like, well, and they were saying it was awful, 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 and then on the other hand, brings up lots of issues, race and, this and thugs and blah, 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 but also, it brings up some very uncomfortable issues that I don't know that they want to talk about, since,
they probably all participated.
Well, their bread and butter is being, it comes from this huge entertainment conglomerate known as NFL. So, well, we'll see. Things are going to... I had somebody bet me that football as we know it will not exist in another 10 years. I think that's a little too soon for that, but I think I know what he's talking about. And I think he thinks what will happen is that fewer and fewer parents letting their kids play it will mean that finally Americans will succumb to soccer instead.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, you got to look at it. There's all these guys out there running around with a ball and no helmets except for the goalie, and I'm not hearing anything about them.
I'm sure they do get injured, but not like these football players. It's really, ugh. I know. I've lost my appetite too. That's it. But we annoy people when we talk like this because some people have not yet lost their appetites.
I know. I know. But it's I don't know. I would like to have football back the way it was,
well, it was
30 years ago.
Well, then you have to, let's have smaller people play it, and I don't know.
Oh, I don't know, or restore a sense of ethics. I mean, why shouldn't good character play into every facet of everybody's life and profession? Why do we want to aim for the lowest common denominator in terms of character?
Yeah,
that's what I don't get.
Yeah, but let's not kid ourselves. I mean, back in the 50s when they were playing football, you think character had a lot to do with it? I mean...
Well, I think our players were naughty, but they were naughty in sort of a funny way. I don't necessarily think they were of bad character. No,
you don't know. I mean, that's our mythologies. And at the bottom of a... in a pile-up after a fumble or something, the things that are going on underneath that pile are hardly indications of great character. I mean, people are biting each other, they're gouging their eyes, they're spitting, they're doing anything they can to get that damn ball. And I think it was ever thus. That's my bet. I mean, I don't want to romanticize what football used to be.
I just think that, we've pushed a lot of boundaries, that's all.
All right, well...
All right, change the subject, enough. We've become all sports all the time.
No, but, well, there was this sports story.
Yeah.
That's been getting a lot of play, and we did want to talk about that. And then you're sitting in Green Bay, and I can tell that the depression hanging over that city has gotten into you. Here's a caller.
Well, it wafted in with my daughter when she came home from the game.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Hey, Susan, soccer goalies don't wear helmets.
I didn't think so.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Soccer goalies don't wear helmets.
That's what I said.
No.
They don't. No, they don't wear helmets.
Right.
No, Suze, you said we're soccer players and nobody wears helmets except the goalie.
Oh, the goalie doesn't?
No.
Okay. I'm watching kids.
No, they don't. And one other thing, there's a famous, and I wish I could remember who it was about, but there's a famous quote from a player from the 1950s who there was a big scrum and there was a pile and one guy came out and his hand was bleeding and somebody had bit his finger off and because his hand was in some guy's face mask, and the famous quote was, anything outside the helmet you get to keep, anything inside the helmet I get to keep.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, see you guys.
Bye. Yeah.
Yum.
The good old days. Okay, we got to get a break in here. We will be off the gridiron when we return.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
I'm for the holidays. Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com. Shop at 10,000 Villages for gifts that give twice. Give to your loved one and give an artisan a life of dignity and hope. 10,000 Villages is a fair trade retailer creating long-term relationships with artisans to ensure sustainable practices, empowerment for women, and economic opportunity in developing countries. With products from artisans in 38 countries, you'll be sure to find unique handicrafts for everyone on your list. A hand-loomed silk scarf for mom, a planter for your aunt, and a hand-carved chess set for dad. Each gift carries its own story. Shop at 10,000 Villages' annual bag sale on November 9th, and everything you can fit into one of their shopping bags is 20% off. Doors will open at 10 o'clock, so arrive early for the best selection. Children are always welcome. 10,000 Villages is located at 5824 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or online at 10,000villages.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right, well, I said I'd get off the gridiron, but I want to get Mike's email in here. I don't know if I agree with it. My thoughts on soccer in the U.S. is this: it will never catch on. We as Americans have to root for superhuman athletes. Not saying soccer players aren't good athletes, but soccer is the only sport in which you don't have to be born with certain attributes. Basketball, you have to be tall and jump. There's a little short guy on that team. Football, you have to be big, strong, and fast. Hockey, you have to skate. Well, and be big, strong, and fast. Baseball, you have to throw a ball 90 miles an hour. Soccer players don't need to be born with superhuman traits. You have to have great foot-to-eye coordination and have to have good cardiovascular, but that all can be gained through practice. Americans won't ever become soccer fans because they look at soccer and don't see it being that difficult.
Well, I don't think we are all innately David Beckham.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't think everybody has the same ability to get themselves to that level of athleticism. And agility is to a certain extent developed, but to a certain extent a great deal of talent and body build.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough here to really have an opinion, but I suspect this is, Well,
it's like everybody can learn dance steps, but everybody isn't a great dancer.
True. All right.
Not everybody can even learn the steps.
That's true. All right, so we're off the gridiron. I just want to say, what movie is here now? I'm getting annoyed with all these movies in town.
There's nothing that I want to see everything is about monsters or space or
the world ending or
blowing up the White House it's just like please.
It's independent movies that are where the good movies are. But no, I'm saying they're making another movie out here in front of the building.
Oh.
And you can't park anywhere. You can't. The street has been closed down. And then in my own neighborhood, I turned the corner the other day trying to get to an appointment, and bang, right into another big chute. These trucks that just take over everything. And what you see when I came in here, so there's 1 million trucks parked up and down the street, and all these guys standing around, and that's all they do. They stand around. And I'm thinking that making a movie would be about the most boring thing imaginable, because there is like a second of activity, and then you stand around again for another hour, and then there's a second of activity, and then you stand. It's almost all waiting. I would lose my mind.
Yeah, it sounds like practicing law. Large parts of boredom with moments of stress and anxiety.
Yeah. And I don't know what this is out here, and if that's the same one that's that's in Squirrel Hill as well. But it just gets to be sometimes, it goes from being, oh, how exciting to, God,
get out of my way.
I know. Could I have my parking space back? Could I have my street back? But I guess not.
Just start charging through the scenes.
Okay, so you know who's being blamed for global warming now?
Who?
Hindus.
And why would that be? Oh, because they won't eat
no.
cows, and there's too much methane gas?
No, sorry. That's good stab, but no. Smoke, well, it's not just Hindus, I must say. Religion.
All their incense?
Smoke created by the burning of Hindu and Sikh funeral pyres and the smoldering of incense in Buddhist temples and in Muslim graveyards is creating almost a quarter of the greenhouse gas emissions on the Indian subcontinent. So they figure 25% of the warming there, or of the carbon that's going into the air, is from religious purposes. Well, what the hell are you going to do about that?
I don't know, but God couldn't possibly want you to destroy the world in order to appease him.
I don't know.
Or her, or it, or them.
And not only that, while they're burning, they're dead and burning all this other stuff, scientists found, get this list, mango bark, cow dung, camphor, leaves, vermilion, and cow urine being burned in the process. And the burning of those kinds of things creates toxic, volatile, organic compounds, including all the ones you don't want to see up in the air. Formaldehyde, benzene, styrene, and on and on and on. So there you have it. Funeral pyres, bad for the environment. They emit large quantities of brown carbon aerosol gas, which are considered the second largest contributor to global warming. Now, if you do the math, there are 3 million religious places of worship in India alone, and over 10 million marriages taking place every year in this country. Not to mention God knows how many deaths. And with these results, and you keep multiplying what's happening, the amount of emissions was just baffling to the scientists. So they say if they did their math right, more than 25% of all the crap spewed into the air in the Indian subcontinent is coming from religious ritual.
God, I don't know. Just one more reason that...
Listen, we're going to be lighting Hanukkah candles soon.
I know.
That's part of it, too.
I know. Did you get your menorah?
No, I didn't get the menorah. Hey, caller. Hello.
How you doing? Hey, I can't buy into this global warming stuff. I think we're part of the puzzle, maybe a small part. But they've got so many studies out there that prove the difference. That the last 13 years, we're not warming. It's no warming. We go in cycles. There's so much proof the one way or the other way, so I don't know who to believe. And, of course, we're losing the ice caps and all that crap, but I still think it's just the Earth, changing in cycles. That's what the scientists say. You might believe that global warming. I want to do that, change things to a different form of energy because of pollution. That's my big concern.
But you're not buying global warming?
No. There's too many studies that show you different, both ways. I don't know who to believe.
Well, I'd go with the scientists.
Yeah, but this is scientists saying the opposite.
Yeah, but then...
How do you go with that?
About 98% of the scientific research says that there is such a thing as global warming, and that would be why the ice caps are disappearing.
Most scientists think there is.
But it's not because we're doing it. It's not because of the pollution we put out.
No. These cycles you're talking about are real and do happen and have always happened. But since the Industrial Revolution, which is when humankind really started spewing crap into the atmosphere,
the pace has
just gone kaplooey. And so you can just see it from the moment we started, the industrial age started, and all and then everything that it begot, you just see this extraordinary spike and a speed of warming, which is not the normal ebb and flow. It's just not. Trust me.
Maybe the end of time's coming.
Oh, come on now.
Okay,
all right.
we'll see you.
Yeah, have a nice day. He's got the most depressed-sounding voice.
Yeah. But he's probably much happier than we think he is.
Yeah, I think he is, too. I do. Anyway, 2 more sport things coming in, emailing. Having been a youth soccer coach for a dozen years and a soccer referee for 6, I can tell you that I've seen plenty of serious injuries in the sport of soccer. Just the other night, I saw a broken collarbone, which is just what happened to Aaron Rodgers. Soccer is a contact sport that is played with virtually no protective equipment other than shin guards, and there are plenty of studies to show that players who head the ball, I would think, yes, are suffering a minor concussion every time they connect with the ball. Stop and think about it. In soccer, you use your head as a... Over time, this can be a serious issue for the player. Yeah, so they'll all be blithering idiots, too.
It seems to me, though, that it can't be quite with the same kind of force.
Well, it's not the same force.
And, and that's what we're talking about, and that's what never made sense to me. Why, what good is a helmet against what is called the contra-coup effect? The helmet doesn't do anything to keep the brain sloshing against the sides of the skull, which is what causes the injury.
Right. The helmet
doesn't do anything.
The helmet does. It protects the skull. But
right,
the skull,
but it doesn't protect the brain.
No, inside the skull is the brain, and it doesn't fit tightly inside the skull. So every blow, that brain is banging up against the inside of the skull.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's what your brain is doing in your skull.
Right. So Ansel writes, the only reason soccer appears to not have caught on in this country is that not enough of us have played it. But that's clearly changing. Perhaps not in Western PA, where football's still king, but in other parts of the country, soccer is seeing explosive popularity. We now have a 24-hour soccer-only cable station, and that should tell you something. We've got, it's definitely making a toehold. And the fact that all of these little kids play and have for now 20, 25 years, I'd say. You got people under the age of 30 are more likely to, in fact, have. Did you play soccer?
Andy played soccer.
Andy played soccer, yeah. Under the age of 30, yeah, they played soccer.
Right.
And I think soccer is more... it's just more available to play for both girls and boys.
It's available for both girls and boys. It's a perfect game because you just got the kids running all over the place until they're exhausted. It's great.
Yeah. So, whatever. I think at some point...
But you're right. I mean, you can hurt yourself knitting, so... Some risk is acceptable.
Speaking of knitting, Susan, did you see the great sports story yesterday that I talked about a Guinness World Record being broken by an American man who broke the world record, who knew there was one, for longest scarf knitted while running a marathon?
Well, how long did it have to be, an inch?
No!
Well, how many people knit while running marathons?
Well, we knew of 2. There's a woman in England, and then she's always held the record, and then he knocked her off. Her longest scarf, if I'm remembering correctly, was something like 9 feet, something. And he just blew her out of the water with, I think a 12-foot plus scarf, and his marathon time was a lot lower as well.
Yeah, but how many? I mean, did they have equal number of stitches on the needle?
I don't know. Was the gauge
he could have had a 2-inch wide, scarf, and she could have had a 10-inch wide.
No, I think so. Maybe they do have to agree on what the gauge of the needle is.
On the gauge of the needle,
but
on the gauge of the yarn, and on the number of stitches.
Yeah, but you also have to think how.
And he could have knitted a whole lot looser.
Yeah, but who? Just think. That is using all your. That's using your fine motor skills and your large motor skills, and stamina, and it's unbelievable. I mean,
total coordination, because some people can't chew gum and walk at the same time.
Yeah, but this is knitting. This is amazing.
This is knitting and running, theoretically.
Yeah. So look it up. There's actually, that did happen.
Where would you teach me so much, Lynn?
Well, you know where I found that story?
Where?
In the sports section of the New York Times this weekend. Cool. Yeah. It said, I mean, you don't expect to see a headline in the New York Times that says knit 2, purl 1, something. I said, what? And then, yeah, it's some woman who did it first and won the London Marathon. I mean, she did it in the London Marathon, and Guinness thought it was so amazing they made a world record for her, and then she continued to make it year after year after year, and then this American, I guess, got wind of it all and thought, I can do better than that, and he did. So we have to take another break.
Okay.
And when we return, we will talk about other totally depressing subjects, just to start your day off right.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Download the CP Haps app to find out what's happening in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now. Available on the App Store and Google Play. Brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is. Because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
10,000 Villages for gifts that give twice. Give to your loved one and give an artisan a life of dignity and hope. 10,000 Villages is a fair trade retailer creating long-term relationships with artisans to ensure sustainable practices, empowerment for women, and economic opportunity in developing countries. With products from artisans in 38 countries, you'll be sure to find unique handicrafts for everyone on your list. A hand-loomed silk scarf for mom, a planter for your aunt, and a hand-carved chess set for dad. Each gift carries its own story. Shop at 10,000 Villages' annual bag sale on November 9th, and everything you can fit into one of their shopping bags is 20% off. Doors will open at 10 o'clock, so arrive early for the best selection. Children are always welcome. 10,000 Villages is located at 5824 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill, or online at 10,000villages.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Just as an aside, I went over to 10,000 Villages yesterday, and I there's nothing left. I bought the joint out. I'm sorry. Boy,
Hanukkah.
Yeah, I hope they restocked, because, Susan, I'll come bearing gifts from 10,000 Villages. That place, you feel so good buying in there, because you know you're not screwing anybody up, and you know you're helping people, and it's just wonderful. I mean, right there on the door it says that it's a no-profit shop, and you gotta love that. And it's all volunteers in there, and they're more helpful than any salesperson who's getting paid I've ever bumped into. They're happier. They know the stuff left and right. They know where things came from, how they're made. It's really something. Just delightful stuff in there. Delightful. I kid you not. Okay, so it's Election Day here, and I haven't voted yet. Jess has. Good for you. And they're voting in a lot of places today. Did you see Texas just passed a number of, offensive and horrific laws, one of which is their voter ID law, which is worse, I think, than the one Pennsylvania is still attempting to instate. And So this 90-year-old guy goes to their version of PennDOT, the Texas Department of Public Safety, to get an ID, which he understood he needed now in order to vote. He's a 90-year-old guy. He goes and he brings with him, he was told to bring identification. So he brought a photo ID that was an expired Texas driver's license. He doesn't drive anymore. And he bought a faculty ID card from Texas Christian University. And they turned him away. They said, "I am so sorry, but this does not satisfy the requirements, even though I agree that looks like you. In both instances, we have to have a certified birth certificate and a this and a that." And so they send the 90-year-old guy away. He comes back with all the right stuff again. And in fact, we do not know if he's going to get his ID, but he wanted to vote today. There's an election in Texas. Now, this guy I'm talking about used to be the Speaker of the House in the U.S. Congress. This is a guy who you might remember. His name was Jim Wright, Democrat of Texas.
Lord.
So here he is. He's well known. He's in a position to perhaps get some attention when this happens. And he said, "I earnestly hope these unduly stringent requirements on voters will not dramatically reduce the number of people who vote, but I think they will reduce the number." Of course.
Well,
because
of course.
that's what they're for.
So far I've heard his story. I've heard a judge that got turned away. They're turning away everybody, and mostly they're turning away women because women. For example, when I got married, I dropped Beth as my middle name and put Miller as my middle name. But since then, I've always been Susan Miller Nutzel. But if I show up with a document that shows me as Susan Beth Miller Nutzel,
they won't use it.
Or Susan Beth Nutzel, I wouldn't have gotten a...
Well, see, I've got a lot of names, too, and I know that what's on this card...
Well, you wouldn't be able to vote there.
This card, I don't think I'm going to be able to vote here. I mean, not this time, but the next time around. But the thing is, I have a car, I have access, I can, take the time to maybe do this. But some people can't. I'm sure he had a driver who drove him there and will drive him back. But then he starts thinking, he says, what about all the old people like in nursing homes or in retirement homes? And there's no way they're going to be able to do this. Another person who got hung up in Texas the other day was the woman who's running for governor, Wendy Davis. They
were gunning for her.
She was attempting to cast an early ballot, and on her driver's license, it says Wendy Russell Davis. But on the voter registration rolls, it just says Wendy Davis. And they said...
That's too much information, as it were.
It's like, give me a break. And she had to sign an affidavit of her identity, and they let her cast a vote, although I guess it's sort of provisional. And this is what the Republicans are doing in state after state after state, making voting so difficult that a lot of people are just going to throw up their hands and say to hell with this. Good job, huh?
It's really offensive. If you are a Republican now, I have to say that you need, and you have allegiance to this party, then I have to flat out say that you are un-American. You are un-American. If you believe that it is right to suppress votes, if you believe that it is right to gerrymander so that you can out-and-out rig elections, if you believe that, it's appalling. Some guy just switched his allegiance. I think it's someone that's running for Congress from a Republican candidate to a to a Democratic candidate because he said he couldn't stand it anymore.
Well, you got Charlie Crist in Florida, who was a Republican governor, now attempting to run again as a Democrat for the same position. And we get this in from Joe, who said he tried to vote in Greenfield this morning, and the whole damn thing was broken down. He said there's several voting machines, all broken down. This is at Winterburn and Farnsworth. And people are turning around and going home. They're just refusing to wait. And
well, that's another way to suppress the vote.
Yeah. Have equipment that doesn't work. Strangely.
It's really appalling.
This is America, Susan. We know what we're doing, and to suggest otherwise is, frankly, to use one of your words that you seem to love so much, treasonous at best.
Well, I mean, I honestly don't throw that word around lightly, but I can't find anything that stands up for an American ideal anywhere in the Republican Party right now.
No, they're pretty lost.
Step on the poor, no health care for anybody, either make it on your own or go away. And by the way, don't vote to make things any better. That's what they stand for.
Pretty appalling. Here's something from Pennsylvania. I came upon this piece. It's written in large part about Pennsylvania, but it's not necessarily some guy who's in Pennsylvania. It's an opinion piece that I found on TalkingPointsMemo.com. But it's such a great point this guy's mentioning. He talks about the fact that Pennsylvania has decided, like a lot of states have that are run by Republicans, to cut funding to schools and for students, and instead put a lot of money on building new prisons. Now, this is so chilling when you think about it. In Pennsylvania, we are, under the tutelage of this governor, Corbett, we are building a huge state-of-the-art prison complex less than an hour away from Philadelphia. And one of the reasons, capacity up to 4,000 prisoners. And
we can put all the poor people in there.
That's right. What they're going to do is, because they've decided they're not going to educate the students in Philadelphia in that beleaguered urban system, they'll be ready for them with this prison, which is close enough to home that maybe their families can visit them. So here's the reality. When Philadelphia schools opened in September, budget cuts meant that a lot of students did not have books, or they had very old books. There were no school nurses. There are no guidance counselors anymore. I've seen this here in Pittsburgh schools, too. There's no librarian anymore. You might, if they even have a library, be able to get into it 1 hour a week. Some schools don't even have enough desks. Thousands of teachers were laid off in Philly. 23 schools were closed after the state of Pennsylvania, under the great leadership of Governor Tom Corbett, cut $1 billion from the education budget, and also destroyed an initiative that was going to distribute what school funding there was in a more equitable way.
Right. It's really a war on poor.
It's a war on poor. So Philadelphia schools were already so screwed up, they had a $300 million deficit. And this is how the state helps them. They take away more money, and then instead they build a state-of-the-art prison complex. One of the reasons for the expansion of this prison is to house more prisoners closer to where they are expected to be from, which would be Philadelphia. And as the guy who wrote this said, it's as though the state has given up on its largest city and is simply lining up cells for Philadelphia's class of 2015.
That's right. Because if you take away people's right to education, which is what you're doing when you refuse to fund it, if you take away that right, then you build a prison. It's not hard to put the no education equals go to jail.
That's right. That is correct. So, and then he goes on to talk about how this is happening in other states. You got the same thing going on in Kansas. You got the same thing going on in Ohio. And the voters just are clueless. The guy who wrote this, by the way, is the CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, which is a coalition of more than 200 civil rights groups.
And I can't even tell you to stand up in Pennsylvania and vote these guys out because now they've already taken away your right to vote.
They've made it hard they made it harder and harder and harder. That is true. They have, Pennsylvania has very few Democrats in its congressional delegation, and it's the result of gerrymandering. We are in a minority in the state legislature in both houses, and we have a Republican governor, and yet this state voted overwhelmingly for Barack Obama. So,
so clearly what has to happen now is that there have to be such grassroots efforts in each state to take back their state houses.
That's
where this is all happening.
That's right. That's where and I don't think Democrats do that. Democrats are always looking at the big thing. They don't think about these legislatures. And I was reading that the Koch brothers, the rich guys.
Oh, no, they're putting all their money into these little local races.
You saw
now.
it, too. Little local races. In towns with like 15,000 population. The Koch brothers
these two Koch brothers. Isn't there something that we can do about them?
It just seems, it's unbelievable. With their money, they are attempting to keep any little community, anywhere they hear some community's trying to raise funds, raising taxes.
With their money, they are attempting to disempower everybody else and empower themselves. These men are out to attack each and every one of our liberties. And if we allow this sort of thing to happen, at some point you just have to stand up and really fight for what you want. When I was saying a couple of weeks ago that I was writing all my legislators, I was telling people this. I was saying, I'm asking you to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Please write. Don't let them think they're getting away with this, or at least make it uncomfortable for them. Guess what the basic answer was? You better be careful.
You mean people said that to you?
People honestly said, you better be careful.
What?
So if that's the mindset, that if you speak out and you call your legislators and you tell them, and you write your legislators and you tell them, I'm not stupid. Stop lying to
what? The Gestapo's
stop, bumbling the government. Stop it. That's my right to speak. I'm not afraid to do that, and it frightens me terribly that other people are
frightened. Wow.
I'm telling everybody that's listening out there again, start writing. Just because the government's, theoretically up and running, you start writing. Be a daily communicator.
Be a crank.
Be a crank. Make it uncomfortable. I'm serious.
I know you are, Suze. I think you should take a chill pill, though.
Oh, well, okay. Xanax, here I come.
Yeah, no, seriously. You sound really on edge today. Don't you?
Well, I got a day of meetings ahead of me.
Well, that'd do it for me. Is your kid still there, or did she?
No, they left at 5:30 this morning, and I also didn't sleep at all. So maybe that's the other reason.
Well, did they enjoy the game even though the Packers lost?
I think they did have a good time, but they were exhausted, and then they got up and they left, and they were exhausted. And I do know that they are already safely back in Chicago. But
okay,
yes,
but they're exhausted. They're young, and it's okay to be exhausted. And finally, this email from Roger who says, "I'm back." Roger sent this to your. I don't. Finished my stint in corporate America in Cranberry. Oh, Susan, that is like, Scaryville. Out of my cubicle, now into my home and my new business after 27 years. Another business starts despite it being Obama era. Well, he says,
yay!
Yeah. He says,
here for entrepreneurs, the only job left.
He says, I hope to talk to you soon. Hi, Susan, he says. This is Roger in Bellevue. And P.S., my 15-year-old Skookum is under my desk, half blind, deaf, and arthritic, but loves food as much as ever, just doesn't get into too much trouble anymore. Susan, now I'm remembering this dog, Skookum, still alive, once ate an unbelievable amount of money. Of Rogers. Chowed down on some serious bills. And if I recall correctly, he patiently waited and then had to go through poop for, a number of poops. And I guess cleaned it up and pasted it together. And I think, if I've got that right, Roger, you can, certainly correct me if I'm wrong. But and I think that's when I first heard from Roger. Because Skookum had eaten the money.
The rent money.
Right. Okay. Hey,
okay,
Susan.
Lynn, it's late.
I know it's late. Okay, have a good day at your meetings, even if you and talk to you later.
Okay.
Thanks, Suze. Bye. Thank you. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. See you then. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.